Hey guys, and welcome to my review of the Spider-Man Homecoming original motion picture score by Michael Giacchino. Now, we're in a bit of a lull at the moment in regards to soundtrack releases, so I decided I would do one that's pretty close to my heart this year. I think Spider-Man Homecoming score is possibly the best score we've had so far this year, and could well be the best score of 2017. Obviously, that's going to depend on what Justice League and Star Wars: The Last Jedi are like, but I reckon it's in with a shot, to be honest. But I absolutely love this score. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and Michael Giacchino has done an absolutely fantastic job of representing Spider-Man through music. So, in comparison to the rest of them, because as you're probably already aware, there have been quite a few Spider-Man films. There have been six, including Spider-Man Homecoming. So, you've got the original Danny Elfman scores, you've got James Horner's Amazing Spider-Man score, and you've got Hans Zimmer's Amazing Spider-Man 2 score to compare it to. So, I'd say personally, it's very close to outdoing them all. I mean, I liked James Horner's Amazing Spider-Man score better, just because I think it's a more complex and interesting score. But I would say that Spider-Man Homecoming score actually fits Spider-Man the character more. Because Spider-Man the character, he's young, and he's kind of fun and jokey superhero. And that's sort of what he's supposed to be. That's who Spider-Man is. And James Horner's Amazing Spider-Man score was very dramatic and dark, and it was fantastic. Don't get me wrong, a fantastic score. But wasn't really very Spider-Man. Whereas I think Spider-Man Homecoming score is just dramatic enough to be awesome, but still jokey and fun and energetic, just like Spider-Man is. So I'd say it actually better represents Spider-Man. But I would still say that James Horner's is the better score for listening. Now, unpopular opinion here. Personally, I don't really rate Danny Elfman's Spider-Man scores. Don't get me wrong, they're really, really good, but I personally think they're last on the list of Spider-Man scores. I think Hans Zimmer's, James Horner's, and of course Michael Giacchino's ones are miles better than his. I don't know. I've tried to see what everyone sees in it, because most people say that Danny Elfman's is the best one ever and nothing will ever beat it. I've tried to see that point of view and I listen to it and I just can't. I think it's good, but I don't think it's as good as the new ones. So yeah, unpopular opinion there. If you disagree with that, feel free to comment in why. I'd love to know, I really would, because I just don't see it. But yeah, enough talking about the score in general, let's get on with the tracks. So I'd say there are 22 tracks on the score, and I'd say a good half of them are fantastic. So we'll start off with the Spider-Man theme at the beginning. This is not the theme for the film, it's a remixed version of the 1960s cartoon Spider-Man theme that Michael Giacchino has done. This was very well received when it first was announced, and even better when it was released. It plays over the Marvel logos and it fits so damn well with the film. It was brilliant when we heard it in the cinema. But yeah, so I think that's really, really good, and so definitely earning a point there. But it isn't part of the score technically, it's just a bit of a remix, a bit of fun really. But yeah, so we'll move on to the actual score now, and then we go to the next good track, which is track number 3, Academic Decommitment. So here we see the Spider-Man Homecoming main theme for the first time, and this is a more high school-y, energetic, less dramatic version of the main theme, which you're going to hear later on in the score. But it's still a fantastic track, and definitely worth mentioning. So then we get on to, in my opinion, the second best track of the score? Yeah, I go second best, to Monumental Meltdown. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the film, I don't really know why you're here, to be honest, because I personally would always watch the film before listening to the score. But if you haven't seen the film, I'm going to spoil it now, so you might want to turn off. But yeah, so Monumental Meltdown is the first action sequence of the movie where Spider-Man climbs up the... Is it the Washington Monument? I'm English, I don't know these things. The Washington Monument, I think, to save his classmates. It's the first action piece of the film, and it's the first action track of the score. It's fantastic. I would say that track alone probably makes the score. So the rest of the tracks make it even better. It's a fantastic action sequence. I'm playing a bit of it just now for you guys. And so the next track we have on the score is Bust a Move. This is the next good track. Now this is track 16 on the score. This is the start of the final action sequence of the film, because you'll find that the action tracks are really the best tracks on the score. It's a shame really, and I'll get into why it's a shame a bit later on in the video. But yeah, so Bust a Move is the next one, and this begins the final act of the film. So this is where he's fighting Shocker next to the school buses. Very, very good track, and also has the first, well not the first actually, the second really, really heroic version of the Spider-Man Homecoming theme here. The first being a Monumental Meltdown, which I forgot to mention earlier. So then we've got Liftoff, which is the main track for the final action sequence of the movie. This is where Vulture is trying to steal the plane for S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, and Spider-Man is trying to stop him. Fantastic track here. It's also very, very uplifting, because it's got quite a heroic version of the Spider-Man Homecoming theme, and also when Spider-Man is trapped underneath the rubble trying to free himself, the music there is very, very powerful. I think it's a great addition to the score there. And then we've got Fly-By-Night Operation, the next track on the score, which is, I think that's when they're fighting each other on the top of the plane. Yeah, I think it is. Very good track there. Not much Spider-Man Homecoming theme, but the Vulture theme in it is very, very menacing and interesting, and I like it a lot. And then, so that's the end of the final action sequence. Then we go to track 20, the next significant track on the score, which is a stark contrast. Here we have a very emotional, James Horner-esque version of the Spider-Man theme, which is very, very nice, and a good track overall. And also there's a bit of Avengers in there too, because obviously this is where Peter's talking to Tony, so it's very Avengers-esque, I should say. And all in all, a very good track. So then we have track 21, which is the final scene of the movie. Very, very heroic and upbeat version of the Spider-Man Homecoming themes. He's putting on a suit, and then obviously Aunt May sees him for the dramatic ending of the film, which is it's quite funny actually. And then track 22, we have the best track of the score here. This is the Spider-Man Homecoming suite. Breathe. And so we've got the first 2 minutes are the Spider-Man Homecoming theme in the best version on the score. 2 minutes of awesome, to be honest. This in my opinion is the best Spider-Man theme made so far. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this develops with Spider-Man Homecoming 2 and 3, which hopefully are also scored by Michael Giacchino. And then further on in the track you've got the Vulture theme, which I think is very menacing and a very good theme for a very good villain. Michael Keaton's Vulture was absolutely fantastic in the movie. And then you've got about a minute or so of the love theme between Peter and his love interest, whose name has completely escaped me. Oh god, I can't remember it. Oh, whatever. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. So, I think this theme is very good, but it's also very underdeveloped. Like, it's barely used in the film at all. Like, it's used for 30 seconds or more. And I think that's kind of disappointing. Because, yeah, I mean, we'll get onto that in a second. And then for the last bit of the track, you've got the Spider-Man Homecoming theme again, in an even more dramatic version, just to wrap up the score. So, all in all, I'd give this score a solid 9 out of 10. I think it's not a 10 simply because it's not quite as refined and developed as it could have been. Mainly to do with the lack of a good love theme. It's not really very refined. And it's also not really used very much in the film, which is a bit of a shame because I think it's a very good theme. I'd also say there's perhaps too much use of the Spider-Man Homecoming theme in the score. It's used in pretty much every track to some extent, and I think that's a bit of a weakness, to be honest, because I'd say, well, could you not come up with something else in addition to the Spider-Man theme? And also, most of the tracks are action tracks, so a bit of difference in there would have been nice. The other tracks that I haven't mentioned in my featured tracks are all non-action tracks, but they're all kind of filler music and not very good. So I'd say a little bit of improvement would have been good there. But all in, it's a very, very good score. It's just let down by, well, it's got a fantastic main theme, which is pretty much let down by everything else. The Vulture theme was good, actually, I should mention that. But yeah, very good main theme that's used a lot. The villain's theme's very good too. The love theme's good but underused. and I think the rest of the score should have gotten a bit more love, because the theme clearly got all of it. But to conclude this video, I'd say absolutely fantastic score. Definitely worth listening to. Possibly the best Spider-Man score there is, and could well be the top score of 2017. Provided it isn't beaten by Star Wars The Last Jedi, that is.